Ed.
Hello, Jefi.
Guess what we're going to talk about today?
You tell me.
Taking a preview challenge.
That's right, the preview challenge. We're going to talk about that and a little backstory as well. And that I threw that challenge out. We're going to explain it. But how's the challenge going for you, Jeff?
Well, here's the greatest thing about this podcast here, this 10-minute takedown, is Ed called me a week ago and said, hey, Jefi, I have a really great challenge for us. I think it's going to change the momentum of our businesses. And you pitched it to me and I was like, ugh, I don't like that at all. And so I haven't done squat in 7 days, right?
That's right.
And you've been out there doing this, and I'm watching the rhythm, and I'm watching what's happening with you, and I'm watching the fact that you're on top of things. So this is why this is such an important thing. So number one, shame on me for not jumping on the bandwagon. So this is a great idea, Ed Billings. And number two, I definitely am making a commitment to everybody listening and to you that I will be doing this. So let's launch this out.
Let's do it.
Tell me a little bit about the challenge. Don't go too into detail, but tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, I came up with this idea. Deal flow's off a bit. Transactions are down from last year about 40%. So we're just not seeing as much churn in the market. Showings, you're looking at one property, you're just having less activity. And I thought, when I started in this business, I used to do a lot of previewing because you're building your business up. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go preview, and I'm going to take a 15-day period and preview every property that comes on in my market. And that's
where you lost me.
Yeah.
That's where you lost me. I'm like, ugh. But here's the thing. This is why it matters. Energy begets energy.
That's it. Activity begets activity. And you do this. And I'll tell you, the last week, you've seen it. We're going to talk about some of these examples, but you make the commitment and you go out and do it. And there's some steps in this we want everybody to kind of try and follow.
Yep.
And it generates activity, and it's real exciting. So shall we kind of go into some of the benefits of why it matters?
Yeah, let's talk about that, because obviously I'm watching you do this, and and we're touching base, and I'm seeing your activity going up. So tell me a little bit about seeing is believing.
Right. So, obviously as properties come on and you're looking at your hot sheets, you can get a feel for the property and the overall picture of it. But when you actually go out and do the preview, it's a very different experience. You're going through it and you're experiencing the property. And what I find, for me at least, is when I'm in it, I think, oh, this person might be interested in this. And you'll start to discover that.
Connecting the dots.
You start to connect the dots, which again is the other point, that when you're there, when I enter the property on the preview, I think, who do I know that might be interested in this?
Mm-hmm. And not only in buying it, but also maybe it's a home in the market next to one of your people who just would like to understand, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what you're doing, is you're thinking, who do I know? They may be a dormant buyer or seller that wants that information. It might be somebody that's just in the neighborhood. Everybody loves to know what's going on in their neighborhood. So who do I know that might find value in knowing that I previewed this and have some insight? So I go in thinking about that.
Yeah.
And then you send you send it to them so that they have the information and let them know that you were there.
Mm-hmm. It's a deep dive actually into, and we're talking about choosing, and we'll talk a little bit about this, but like Ed has his market area that he works deeply. Not that you don't go outside that, but you have a deep area, deep dive market. I do the same. And if you were my realtor and you called me and said, hey, Jefi, I just previewed a house on Grandview. I don't know if you know it's for sale, but it's listed for X. It isn't even as nice as your house. And I know you're not selling right now, but maybe you know somebody who would love to. And I might call you and go, wait a minute, maybe I would sell right now if I could get that price. So you're you're going above and beyond to stir the market.
Right. What you're trying to do is you're defining the market that you're going to be doing the deep dive in. You're not going to go and look at every property in San Diego, right? It's your micro market.
Right.
And then you go and you preview it, and then you launch that off to somebody that would find value in that information.
Right. And I will say too that one of the things that kind of put me off in the beginning was I was like, am I really going to go see 23 homes? And then you explained to me, why don't you just start with the last 3 days? So if you're going to take this challenge, you could start within the last 3 days. And I think you're going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about how to do that.
Right. Tell me about deal flow. What does that mean when you're talking about deal flow?
So this is a benefit I've seen in doing this that was somewhat unexpected, but it makes sense. So I'm going and I'm previewing the property and I'm giving feedback to the agent.
Ooh,
and good. So I do that. That's part of the challenge, right? So I give that feedback, and now I'm on the thread. So when they get an offer, they're texting me and letting me know that they've received an offer, and there's some dialogue. So rather than just looking at the MLS sheet and it's sitting there, I'm getting intel as to what's actually happening in the market. I'm also running into other agents while I'm previewing. I've met 2 very good agents I have really tight relationships with. I said, hey, I'm just previewing. Do you want my opinion? A couple of them said, yeah, what do you think of the house? I gave them my opinion with their client there. And we had some conversations about listings they've got coming up, what I'm coming up. So it's just putting you in that mix.
That's great. You're in the flow, man. That's amazing. One thing I don't want to gloss over this because you said this, is that it sounds like in your market, agents, if you've viewed a property and you get an offer, like as a listing agent, that listing agent will text everybody who's been through the properties to say, hey, we got an offer. Are you going to write one? Is that kind of what they do?
It depends. Some agents, like I've received, hey, we've received an offer. Are you going to bring one? Or you'll get the showing time notification. We've received an offer. Here's the deadline.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell a little story. I think on one of the ones I previewed in a bit that kind of goes through how that worked a little bit. So
okay. So what I'd love to do, because we're getting close to our 10-minute mark, do you want to pitch the challenge and break it down?
Yeah, let's do that. So here's the challenge, everybody. And we'd love to hear if you take it and what the results are. Pick a 15-day period. So it's a 15-day challenge. There's some logic behind that. You're not signing up forever to preview every home in your market, although you may find that you want to as this continues. But challenge yourself that for the next 15 days, all the actives that come on in your micro market, you're going to go preview. So for me, I define that as Chapel Hill schools. So that's within the Chapel Hill School District. And then I preview single family homes. I don't preview the townhomes or the condos that come on.
Okay.
So I just kind of say, that's my chunk. That's also the same market that I track my absorption data on. So I like to have that be consistent. And so there's 3 steps to it. You go and you preview it. You then need to send that property to someone that maybe find it of value or of interest that you've previewed it. You can ask if they know of somebody that might be interested in buying it or interested in selling in their neighborhood. And then you need to provide the feedback. So there's 3 pieces to it. Now I'll add a 4th for the overachievers out there for bonus points. Do a pop by while you're in that neighborhood if you want to get some bonus points. Oh, that's a great one.
Dang it.
And then you're having a conversation. Hey, I was just previewing the house down the street. Now you're talking, right?
Right.
So that's what you do. So there's those 3 steps. Now I've been doing this for about a week. It's creating really good churn for me right now. I had a really interesting experience. So one of the first properties that came on was a home that I'd sold 10 years ago. Yeah. It was listed at that time. I sold it for, I think, $360,000. Yeah. It was on the market for $880,000. Wow.
Okay.
So I'm like, I got to go see this. So, well, I had to because I'd made the challenge, but I was really interested. So I go, they'd done a ton of updates. They hadn't added any square footage, but it showed beautifully. And while I was in there, I'm like, this is good for a dormant client that I've got. I'm going to send this to him. So boom, I send them that sheet.
Yeah.
Then I sent it to the previous owners. I said, check out what's happened to your old home. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're having a conversation about that. So I've had two connections.
Two sources of connections. Mm-hmm.
Right. The dormant buyer, they're like, wow, we love the location, but that's too traditional for us. We'd really like to have something more contemporary. And I thought, hey, there's a home in my neighborhood, kind of meets your criteria for location. It's contemporary. It's coming on in about a month. They drove by, I gave them the address. They drove by. They were going to go look at that property. So now I've converted them into an active buyer. The previous owners, they went to the open house. They had a conversation. They wanted to see what happened to their old home. So they cared enough to go out and see it. They were super excited about the whole thing and what they'd done. So we're having conversations. Then the agent reaches out to me and says, hey, thanks for sending them by. I said, congratulations. I see you got an offer. She goes, I got 5 offers. So now I've got market data.
Right. Which is
all out of
very
that
important. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Because now I've been talking about that home in my flow with other people and saying, yeah, it was a high price. I thought it was slightly overpriced. Shucks. They got 5 offers. I was clearly wrong. This market's continuing to accelerate up. Do you want to sell? So, it's like changing the whole thing.
That's so great. Okay. And I'm such a jerk that I didn't do this. So, all right, everybody, I'm in. I'll give you an update next week when we record our next podcast, because that will be 14 days from now. So, okay. High five, mister.
Boom. I'd love to continue this conversation, but I got to go preview a house.